Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Financially Irresponsible. I'm your host, Rahkim Sabree, and this episode I actually have a special guest. So, as part of my ongoing commitment to engaging with the community, I decided that I wanted to bring individuals who are doing great work in the community onto the show. So, I just want to introduce you all to Curtis. Welcome to the show.
How's it going?
Going well.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you for being here. Curtis, introduce yourself to the audience and let them know who you are, first of all, but what you do in the community.
Absolutely. Again, thanks for having me. Such a pleasure. And my name is Curtis Rodriguez Porter, and I'm the managing director for CREC School Choice, and also chair of the City of Hartford's LGBTQ plus Commission, resident of Hartford, and heavily involved in a variety of community initiatives.
Nice. And we're in Financial Literacy Month. We're going into Mental Health Awareness Month. So I'm going to steer the conversation a little bit between those two areas. But on this show, a lot of times I talk about the intersection of money and mental health. I know you and I have talked about that kind of offline and why that's so important. But let's start at the beginning. What is your earliest money memory?
That's a great question. My earliest money memory is my grandmother, my father's mother, my grandma Clem, I call her. She would have a piggy bank at her house, and every time I went over there, she would task me with a chore of washing the dishes or vacuuming, and she would give me money. And because I had a little brother back at my house, I would keep the money at her house and put it in my piggy bank that she had stored away at her house. And so that is my earliest memory. And for age, I probably was about maybe 9 or 10, I would say.
Okay. And do you think that that experience has any kind of impact on the way that you interact with money today? So I think when we talk about piggy banks, we talk about saving, or we think about saving.
Yes.
Do you think that those early practices around money has an impact on what you do today?
I think that is a piece of it. However, my uncle, her son, my Uncle Roy, he was the person from the time I was young until now, currently, just constantly in my ear, asking me if I'm saving, asking me if I'm putting things away, asking me if I have the right accounts and all those kinds of things. So I think that in actuality, she was teaching me to put money away without saying much. But then I had my uncle in my ear who was actually giving me tangible, viable information along the way, and the reasons why it was important to put money away and things of that nature. And so I think really, she gave me kind of that practical start,
Yep.
but he gave me the knowledge for a strong foundation to at least steer me in the right direction. And, I was able to take away some nuggets. I didn't understand it then,
Yeah.
but now that I'm older, I definitely, appreciate all that he was trying to instill in me for sure.
That's awesome. I think back to my early experiences with money, and I talk about this often when I have these public facing sessions. I was taught to save money, but I wasn't taught what to save money for, right? So it sounds like there's a parallel there. But the difference in what sounds like your experience is that you had somebody who's actually telling you like the why behind this process.
Yes.
And so do you consider yourself to be like a good manager of money based off of those lessons, or did you have to kind of navigate some bumps in the road along the way?
To be honest, I had to navigate some bumps. I had to navigate them bumps for sure. Many a bumps, right? Money is, and I'll speak for myself and my family. Like folks say save or what have you, but also talking about finances wasn't something that was like an open conversation.
Right.
And so, in my family in particular, and so I feel that, while I had my uncle, he lives in Las Vegas, right? So he wasn't in Connecticut with me to really be there and be hands-on. So I still had I would have my household, and they didn't talk about finances. Had what my uncle was telling me. And so, while having that, I was young. And so I wanted to do, when I got my first job when I was 15 years old, my little summer job, working at the Housing Authority in Ansonia, Connecticut, because I'm from the Valley. And, from there, got my little check. And, you get in, I would run off to New Haven and go shopping and things like that. And so, I would be like, oh, let me put away $5 or $10 because my uncle would say, that's what I was supposed to do. And that was that piece. And then as I got older, it was just like, oh, I should put a little bit away. And I would put a little away, but as not nearly as much as what my uncle was saying. And then when it was time to buy a car, he was like, Curtis, you should ride your bike or you should catch the bus. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go get a car, right? And so when you do that, you realize you have maintenance, gas, insurance, right? And if something goes wrong, you might have to buy a new car, right? And so then it kind of just from there, and then, like the rappers say, the more money, more problems. And so, from the summer job to my career now, it just kind of bills get higher and different things shift and things like that. And so I think that having the consciousness and the tools has helped me, and I'm in a better position than my parents were, for sure, absolutely. And I have my money in different vehicles and try to spread it out for sure. But I've definitely made bumps along the way. Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. The reason why I asked that question is because I'm often involved in conversations where the financial literacy piece is kind of like thrown out there as, right, this is the solution to the problem. And it sounds like you were introduced to financial literacy at a young age, but there's still a disconnect between like knowing what you should be doing and then actually doing it, right? The behavioral side. And so that's why I spend a lot of time talking about financial therapy, financial mindset, exploring what were some of the early experiences that people have had around money. And I think it illustrates an interesting point because last year in the state of Connecticut, a bill was passed to require financial literacy in high school in order for a graduation requirement. And so while financial educators, myself included, cheered for that, there's still kind of like this healthy, I think, skepticism that I have anyway around, okay, yeah, we got that, but like what else?
Right.
So tell me a little bit about, I want to kind of pivot this into your role, and then tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are on kind of that bill and what you maybe have seen or what you might think could be better about the way that this might be rolling out.
Right. So, I feel that I think it's a great start to your point to have that financial literacy. I know that all the time, my friends and I that I've had from middle school or high school, we talk about that as adults, we wish that when we were in high school, they were talking about the things, stocks and IRAs and, different 401ks and 403b, like just all those savings vehicles. We wish that those were the conversations in high school. They focused on the more systematic math, reading, science, all those kinds of things, but not the actual civics, facts of life type components that we feel like are so important. And so I think it's a good start, but if it's only taught in school, and my question would be, does that extend to the home life, right? Because in school is only one piece. And again, I think about my situation, I had my uncle who was feeding things in my ear, but that wasn't the reality in my house, right? And so if something's getting taught in school, what is the continuum of that in education? And so for work, being the managing director for CREC School Choice, we are the program that supports Hartford residents who attend public schools throughout the region. And so, I think that having something like this is important to have, but I would question, are students taking advantage of it, right? Similar to the Black and Latino course, that is also a mandate to be offered, but is it being taken? Are folks accessing it and taking advantage of that course? So I think that's a piece of it. And then if it is, what are the partnerships to the class? I bank with Franklin Trust, and I know they're a great proponent of having students come in and intern and things like that. And so I just wonder if, the schools that offer those classes And if students are taking them, what is the continuum of that outside of just the school? Are there internship opportunities? Are banks and financial institutions and things like that coming in to further educate, right? And then are they promoting for the families to ensure that they have accounts and that they're managing their finances appropriately and things like that? So, I think there's more than just what's happening in the classroom. It has to trickle out into the community and into the home.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's definitely a step in the right direction, but it also feels kind of like the bare minimum requirement, right? It's like we acknowledge as a community, and I think nationally there's greater acknowledgement, although every state is not on board yet for the requirement of financial education in schools, that especially in this consumer driven capitalistic society, people need to understand how to navigate their finances. They need to understand money. But in a way, people's lack of understanding kind of like drives the system forward, right? So it's like this hamster wheel approach, and some of the work that I've done and just kind of understanding capitalism and the impact that it does have on individuals and communities from a financial trauma perspective. It points to kind of like this dependence, right? Like we're bombarded every day, all day. As soon as we wake up and we look at our phone with this message of buy, buy, buy. Your value is tied to what you have. Your value is tied to what you look like. And so people feel pressured, and sometimes they beat themselves up for not having these bare minimums. As I was listening to you talk about the involvement of the home in this educational piece and the involvement of financial institutions in this educational piece, I also thought about like people who are experiencing a survival mode, right? I can think back to the seventh grade. I was introduced to stocks. I had a math teacher introduce us to the stock market, and the foundational knowledge is great, but I also can remember during that same time period being hungry, right? I can remember during that same time period seeing eviction notices on the door. And so when people are navigating kind of this state of crisis, the education's not going to stick. And so I think there is a desire certainly on the part of families who, have children who are going to school to learn about money. Maybe they're not in a position to teach kind of the nuances of navigating financial products and services, or the best ways to save, or the best accounts to save in. But they want their children to learn and participate, and maybe even bring that home so that they can learn while dealing with crisis. So I think that the work that you do is super important. Can you talk a little bit more about what that day-to-day looks like? Like, tell me about your responsibilities as a managing director, and kind of what are some of the things that you've seen in line with that picture that I've just painted?
Yeah, for sure. So day to day, we have 28 districts that we partner with throughout the region. And we have over 2,300 Hartford resident students that participate and attend neighborhood schools throughout the region as part of an original school integration initiative. The Hartford Region Open Choice Program started off as Project Concern back in 1966, and has since, that name in itself is problematic, so has since transitioned and rebranded to the Hartford Region Open Choice Program. And so in leading the team that does the work, I know for myself, when I first came over to CREC, I was formerly in Hartford Public Schools, and I came over and, have since grown in my roles. So I have the experience of visiting districts back when I was a family engagement specialist for the program, and really having that personal connection with families and students who might be experiencing some kind of hardship, and try my best to support and assist in navigating, which is why I believe, as a Hartford resident, and my passion for community and collaboration and a sense of community, to have as much knowledge and a network as broad as possible, so that when a family or anyone comes to me, I don't have all the answers, but I have somebody I can connect to. Yeah. And so that's something that I definitely strive for, right? And very transparent in that. And so, from day to day, we can have families experiencing homelessness. We can have families who have had their own experiences with education, and so attendance may or may not be a top priority. Transportation might be a factor. And then also, when a student attends school in one of these towns that are more affluent, the expectation financially and the extracurricular activities may be there. And so there's another cost factor that comes to the family. And while there are funds to support, families who might have some kind of hardship, many families are very proud and don't want to access
Right.
those opportunities that are there. And so I can't blame them for that, right? But there are different avenues there for that. And so there's that piece. But then also there's a lot of families who they're okay, right? Hartford is a melting pot and mixed with folks of different economic, socioeconomic statuses, demographics, things like that. And so there's a large portion of folks who are okay or feel like they're navigating things fine. And so what our team does is it's a team of 17. And so we support students in their transitioning and making sure that they have access to equitable learning in the classroom and while in the district. And then we have our college and career advisor who supports students for post-high school, if that's the workforce or if that's college. We have that available. We also ensure at CREC, we have our CREC resource group that supports with DEI and any extra behavioral or social emotional support that might be needed for families. Again, talking about financial, right? We know that when the holidays come, that's a peak, that's a stressor at home for some families, and so that bleeds into the school. So in anticipating that, we have to make sure that the support is there to support the families and the students during that transition, and educating the districts to say, hey, this is something that is prevalent in some of the communities in Hartford, and so be mindful of this when student behavior possibly might escalate, or behaviors might change, students might be acting different, or if a family comes in and they're more passionate than they were, right? There's just different nuances that you have to navigate. And because our team is multicultural, biliterate, we are multilingual, we are able to have that connection to the city of Hartford and identify with our folks, and then be that conduit for the district to help support them and help them navigate the different nuances and the different spaces that they might find themselves in.
Fantastic. So it sounds like you guys are engaged in a lot of community advocacy. What are some of the roadblocks to how you guys define success in working with the districts, the city, even the people that you support?
Success for us is we take success to one student, one family at a time. Because we have, again, over 2,300 students in our team of 17, right? That's a very small team for so many students and so many districts, over 100 and something schools. And so we have to be very intentional about how we engage with our supports, ensure that we come in and our cups are overflowing so that we can support, right? Because if our cups are empty, how can we adequately support our districts and our families? And so we have to be really intentional, and we measure that success by when the family comes and they support our events and our initiatives that we do to kind of network the families. We take that as a win. When the families contact our resource specialists and praise the work that they're doing, saying that, one, they didn't know that they existed, or how they've helped navigate them through a PPT type situation, or possibly a racial incident in the district that might occur. And when the family has those testimonials, we take those as success stories. And then we also offer scholarship opportunities. And so in reading the scholarships and the narratives that the students who are seniors entering college have written, we hear about the challenges that some of them have gone through. And though they were able to navigate it either alone or with the support of their families or with our department, that they wouldn't trade that experience because it has instilled in them a grit or a knowledge of what the real world possibly might be
Right.
and the spaces that they might navigate. And so they say, you know, I feel like I'm equipped now with the tools to adequately navigate that space post high school. And so those are just some of the examples of how we would, you know, measure success. And of course, outside of the data driven success stories, you know, graduation rates, right?
Yeah.
What are test scores looking like, right? Students with minimal attendance concerns, how many students are accessing ECE courses and college level courses throughout the program. And of course, you know, how many districts are offering seat availability to the Hartford residents who family might choose to explore the program and things of that nature. So those are the more data-driven successes that we have, but then the anecdotal would be testimonial-based, success story-based, and things of that nature.
Yeah, I think that's great. And the story you just told about the, I'll use the word resilience that some of these students are experiencing in partnership with you guys is phenomenal, right? Because we don't want to sugarcoat or create a fairy tale narrative around what real life is going to look like. And certainly we want to acknowledge what people are going through right now, right? We don't want to just kind of like discount and say, oh, your story is not important, or you got lucky, or, you know, anything like that. So I think it's super important, the work that you guys are doing. Where can people find you? Like, if they want to learn more about the work that you do, or how to get in contact because they need services or because they want to contribute to the services that you guys offer, where can they find you?
Yeah, so our hub is at 111 Charter Oak Avenue in Hartford, next to the Kennedy King building, we call it. And so we're right, you know, on the offset of downtown. We have a full-on welcome center where folks can access, again, multilingual team that's in the welcome center. And, you know, the phone number is 860-509-3700 if folks feel like they want to contact the Welcome Center, who can then triage and put them in touch with the appropriate folks. I think, you know, as myself, again, as a Hartford resident, as a homeowner in Hartford, as someone who's also a landlord in Hartford, I just think that it's important, you know, to be accessible to the community and to be able to instill whatever tidbits I can in any of the students that I come in contact with, or that my team comes in contact with. And so I think it's very important that folks know that we exist and that we're here to assist. And folks come with a variety of strong skill sets, and, you know, we're here to support for sure.
Fantastic. Well, I hope that this episode lets more people know of your existence and of the great work that you're doing. Curtis, it's been a pleasure. This has been another episode of Financially Irresponsible, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for having me.
Nick Augustino right here at the East Side Restaurant. We always have the complete full dinner menu. Knockwurst, bratwurst, sauerbraten, potato pancakes, red cabbage, rice pudding, cream pies, all the desserts that Germany had to offer. I always do something different. Yes, I do. I brought seafood to the beer garden at the East Side Restaurant. East Side Restaurant, your German destination restaurant in Connecticut. Tiki-taka, tiki-taka, hoi, hoi, hoi!
follow us on Instagram at nutmeg.tv.